Hey groupers, Pastor Marshall. It's June. Can you believe it? How did we get to June this fast? We've kind of gotten lost. Our schedules have been obliterated by all the things that are going on in our world, in our country, even our community. Well, I hope that you've been able to get a little lost in the Psalms. There's so many, and because I'm not going in any kind of order, there's a chance that maybe we would get lost. That's what I hope. That's what music can do for us. It can kind of allow us to check out a little bit, to rest in it, to be like a cloud, and we just kind of lay in it and get immersed in it. Well, that's what I hope is happening, and I hope that that's what happens in Psalm 56. Psalm 56 is different, the roller coaster psalm. So what is an area of your life where you waver? What is an area where you struggle to keep the commitments that you make to yourself that maybe no one else knows of the roller coaster that's going on, but that you know? I mentioned the discipline of practicing my knots and my anchors for rescue. I wish I was doing it all the time. I make these promises that I'm going to do it all the time to myself, and then they evaporate. So I'm picking my rope back up this week, and I'm trying to work on my knots. What about you? Now, this is small group. This is Bible study. Tell about a deep experience that you have had where you had great confidence in God in your life, but then very quickly it was followed by a lack of confidence, a lack of faith. And so in the icebreaker, maybe we talk about just some roller coasters from our daily lives, but let's talk for just a moment about some roller coasters in our spiritual lives. What's something in your spiritual life where you can remember you just knew that you and God were going to get it done, and then very quickly you were terrified and you were wondering where God was? What are some of David's expressions of fear, worry, lament in this psalm? Make a list. And then next to that list, now what are David's declarations of praise, his declarations of trust, his confidence in God towards God in this psalm? So let's make a list of his worries, his doubts, his fears, and then next to it, let's lay along his praise, his trust, his confidence. Now, the next thing I want you to do is I want you to look at David's emotional state, this roller coaster psalm that we're in. What is the condition of his emotional state in the first two verses? And then, what is the condition of his emotional state in verses 3 and 4? And then, what is the condition of his emotional state in verses 5 and 6? And then finally, what is the condition of his emotional state in verse 7? I want us to look at where David is at emotionally. What area of your life right now do you resemble David's emotional, spiritual roller coaster? Be transparent with your group. Right now, where's an area where you are struggling with this? Now, in the second half of the psalm, David does change gears a little bit, and he begins not to ignore the severity of his situation, but he turns his eyes, he turns his mind towards God. And so what do we learn about David's understanding of God's power in verses 8 through 13? Go through and make a list of what David understands about God's power in the second half. And then from that, what is one attribute, that's the word I'm looking for, what is one attribute of God that you can put in your pocket today that might help you right now with your spiritual roller coaster? That's what our application was, and so let's finish by being reminded of our application. What is one characteristic of God that this week you decided that you would carry around with you, and you would remind yourself of it morning, midday, evening, and have some confidence? Maybe level the curve of our emotional roller coaster. I hope that you have a great group, and I look forward to seeing you next week as we continue our journey through the Psalms.